Welcome to 15K plus random movie reviews, where we take random movies from Metacritic's 15K plus movies to randomly watch whether we like it or not. Hello and welcome to episode 8 of 15K plus random movie reviews. This is Colin.
And this is Niall.
And welcome to random movie number 2472, which is Bedazzled from 1967. Not to be confused with the 2000 mega hit with Brendan Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley. This has a Metascore of 77 on Metacritic. User score is to be determined because not enough people have actually reviewed it. It runs for 103 minutes. Its budget, so they say, was 770k. And the box office raked in the US and Canada 1.5 million. So I wasn't too sure on the numbers there, but it's one of the sources I got. So I think they probably doubled their money somewhat there. So a couple of people that are in the background of this, the crew, let's say. Obviously, the screenplay is written by Peter Cook, one of the main stars, and Peter Cook and Dudley Moore were a pretty popular comedic act in the 60s in the UK. The director, Stanley Moon, probably reached his peak with directing Singing in the Rain and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. I think when you look up his career, Mr. Donen has all his accolades for Singing in the Rain, and maybe, perhaps, I don't know if I'm being overly critical here, but it kind of went downhill from there, maybe. I don't know what you think about his oeuvre, Niall.
Well, he did a bit of directing of Dancing on the Ceiling for Lionel Richie. Same man who appeared alongside Bob Dylan, Stevie Wonder, and Mike Jackson in We Are the World. So, I suppose that might have been his last notable feat.
Yeah, so what Mr. Donen said about Bedazzled, he said it was a very personal film in that I said a great deal about what I think is important in life, end quote. So interesting to hear that, and we'll hear from what our thinking about that is as we go on. The cinematographer, I just wanted to point out, was Austin Dempster, and his one of the movies he did cinematography for was Born Free, which I remember from my childhood back in the day of the lion sort of not the lion tamers, but the lion conservationists in Africa. I just remember that movie; it stood out for me as I was a kid. And one of the editors, Richard Mondin, I think his name is. Interestingly enough, he edited Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2. So, a bit of a devilish.
Same movie, really, isn't it?
Yeah, devilish streak running through him. So, yeah, not too many big names in the background there. I don't know if you had anybody you wanted to pinpoint there.
Nothing much else in there. Like, some names were, UK based, weren't massive in the whole Hollywood scene. Obviously you've got Raquel Welch, but we won't go into her now. Barry Humphries, I'd like to give an honourable mention to as the late great Dame Edna Everage, who passed away recently enough. Who, speaking of childhood, was one of those acts I was very fond of, sitting at home on a Sunday evening watching her dog show.
So we can move pretty much quickly on to plot then. I think one of the things before you get into recalling it, I think one of the things that I sort of found from looking about online for this is that a lot of movies that have been released in the decades of cinematic history are loosely based on this Faustian concept where the main character sort of sells their sort of spiritual selves for some materialistic goods, and I think Bedazzled is one of those prime examples of this sort of trope. Let's say. So if you want to,
the old "careful what you wish for" type thing, yeah.
So plot. Go ahead and kick us off.
Yeah, it starts off. Dudley is a short order cook in Wimpy's, which I remember from my very, very early childhood. Mm-hmm. He's sitting there making his burgers, frying up eggs. He looks across to his love interest, a Mrs. Spencer, who's the waitress. he's thinking in his head, I really want to get with this girl. She's amazing, blah blah blah. But he hasn't got the confidence to do anything about it. He runs out to say something to her, but as he exits the restaurant, she gets into a bubble car with her then boyfriend, I think. Which is, I found the bubble car scene quite weird because that was, I suppose, a cool thing at the time. I'm not quite sure. Anyway,
Just open up the front of your car and get into it.
yeah, weird. Not very spacious. Not very comfortable. But anyway, um, on seeing this, Dudley's a bit upset, so he goes home, wraps a rope around his neck, and hooks himself up to I'm assuming, is the intake water pipe, just about to do himself in.
All right, Super Mario.
Yeah, sorry. And the pipe breaks. At this point, in pops Mr. Satan, Peter Cook, and says, "You wouldn't be interested in £1,000,000." Goes into a weird backstory about how his great 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 grandfather managed to come by several £1,000,000, and then his great grandfather lost it all, which doesn't really cheer up
No.
Dudley all that much. But then he says, I'm kind of yanking your chain here. I can help you. And then he goes and says, I'm Lucifer, Beelzebub, all the names he can think of, the horny one, which I quite liked. So, he's basically saying, I can give you a way out or a way to be with this girl. I'm going to give some wishes. He spends the next 5 minutes proving to Dudley that he is Beelzebub. The first way he proves it, like I'm doing air quotes here, obviously you can see that, is by granting him a wish, and that wish is to have an ice cream. But he goes down to the local shop, buys him an ice cream, and in the process he borrows money off him, which is very important.
Yes.
Borrow monies off him, excuse my grammar, borrows some money off him and gives him an ice cream with that money. Dudley, obviously not very impressed with this magic trick, says, come on, you have to do something better than that. So Mr. Satan teleports him to his, I guess, underground nightclub. At this point, Dudley's like, okay, perhaps you are Mr. Satan. Which he doesn't seem to be too worried about, because he kind of shakes his hand and goes, oh, nice to meet you. I'd be running. But he doesn't seem too worried. Seems a like chap. They go into the nightclub. They bump into the first of the 7 deadly sins, which is Mr. Anger, who slaps Dudley around a little bit for no particular reason. They go downstairs. He shows him about the place. Next thing of note is he's just ripping buttons off shirts, and then he gets a record. There's another important thing. He scratches it, puts it back in the record sleeve, sends it on its way. That comes back again later.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
comes out with a contract, says, listen, your soul, it's rubbish, but I can give you some excellent wishes for that soul. His soul's rubbish, but those 7 wishes, they'll be excellent. Dudley goes, what the hey, my life's crap anyway. Let's do this thing. Signs the contract, all seems good, and he gives him his first wish. Oh, there was an interesting line just before we jump over that, because what was it? Oh yeah, I think Dudley basically says, I'm going to go back and kill myself and it'll be fine. And he goes to say, if you don't leave now, I'm calling the cops. And then Peter says, suicide's a criminal offence. Back in less enlightened times, they would have hung you for it, which one of my favourite lines in the movie.
It's a very kooky line.
Anyway, at this point, I'm going back.
We're on to the wishes.
On to the wish. First wish.
There's 7 of them get through, so hurry
I know. First one was he wanted to be more articulate, more of an intellectual, which he achieves by being Welsh.
Yeah, it was a pretty weird voice. I think it was pretty off-putting, the voice that he did in the first wish.
Yeah. I think it's probably the weakest of the. I actually found some of the wishes kind of interesting. This one was kind of daft.
It wasn't the best one to start off on.
No. And I actually quite like Dudley Moore in this, but he's not good in this piece. The whole intellectual thing and the stuff he's spouting as intellectual talk is just drivel. But I don't know how you feel about it, but this is my least favorite of all the seven. Was it Seven Wishes? Yeah, Seven Wishes.
Yeah,
Even
it's
less of a favorite than the ice cream.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a bit. It's all it is him and his would be love interests Margaret Spencer in his lovely apartment, and he's talking up a storm and trying to impress her, and goes for
Yeah,
the finishing move, and she shouts rape, basically.
yeah. It seemed a bit
It's quite
extreme.
it's quite jarring, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I haven't watched a lot of 60s comedies recently, and just seeing him on top of her making the move and her just screaming rape constantly, it's like, wow, this is very jarring, and I'm not used to this
I found
sort
it
of
incredibly
dialogue.
uncomfortable. There's another
Hmm.
scene later on. I won't go into it
Yes.
now, but it was
Yeah.
just as bad, if not worse, actually. Um,
Correct.
and I found it hard to watch it from a modern day sensibility.
Yeah.
But yes, that was that scene. I suppose we'll jump out the next. We have a few to get through.
Yes, but we obviously need to mention how he how he gets to stop each wish is
Oh
to
God, yes, yeah,
basically blow a raspberry. So it's
yeah. Which
that
I,
comes to
I
play later too.
I shouldn't like that, but I found that titillating, if you will.
Well, it comes in at a more comedic level later on
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
sixth wish. Let's put it that way. So yeah, so he gets out of that one and moves on to the second wish. And
yeah.
what do
So
you think of this one? Yeah.
um, I have written
This
this.
is the
Oh,
powerful. This
is
is
this
the
the rock star
powerful
one? Is it?
rich. No, this is the powerful rich one. He kind of shows up in the Rolls Royce. He's powerful rich. He wanted to be powerful and rich, and for his wife to be madly in love with him, but his wife is very promiscuous and is flirting with her harp instrument teacher, and he plays snooker with some other character. I
Yeah,
don't even remember his
Randall.
name. Lord something.
Lord Fluffin or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he
but
was
Peter Cook's
terrible.
in the background of all of these wishes.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't in the
And
first one, but he was in the second one, and he sort
yeah,
of he basically sabotages each of the wishes because he is the devil, basically. So with
yeah,
this one,
he's the clause that he's there to stick in the clause that
yeah,
make sure that while he gets what he's wished for, it's not going to be an enjoyable time for old Dudley.
no. So he's playing snooker with the devil, and then the devil's like going, "Oh, he's probably messing around with the. She's probably messing around with the harp teacher."
Well,
He
she
heads
is.
into the he heads into the harp teacher, and he's doing nothing. Goes back, finds his wife not there, and of course she's with the devil.
In
And
the bed with the
so
devil. Oh, not in the bed, in the bathtub with the devil, actually.
in the bathtub, yeah.
So
And
I've
then
got this. I've got this backwards then because I have the rock star.
no, that's the next one.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
but anyway,
I just watched it 20 minutes ago, so I could have it written down
yeah,
wrong. So anyway, the next one then we go into is where the devil says to him, if you want to get a girl these days, the most easiest way to do that is via being a pop star or a rock star.
yeah,
And again, this is a nice short one. Basically, she's screaming his name. She loves him. All the women love him. They're all throwing themselves at him. He's singing this very needy song called "Love Me,"
yeah,
where he basically says, love me" over and over again. I need you, blah blah blah. And everybody loves him. Then the devil appears and he sings, "I don't need you, I don't like you, go away from me." Effectively,
yeah,
a song
and
called
he's
"Bedazzled."
yeah,
Um,
exactly the theme tune or the title track.
And this aloof nature of the rock star makes everybody love him even more, and Dudley's left sitting on the ground by himself. And then he goes,
Exactly.
yeah, which I agree with that one.
It's nicely shot. I guess we could talk about that in production, but the TV one was obviously very black and white and very arty fartsy. But I thought that was
I
pretty well
actually thought the
shot.
music, the choice of music and the song that they especially for it were actually they were
Not
well
too bad.
produced, actually. They were
Yeah,
good.
not too bad.
They
Dudley
fit
Moore
well.
wrote all of them.
Did he? I didn't. Oh, okay. So he
Yeah,
wrote both those songs.
yeah, he wrote all this music in this movie.
Well, he is I was going to say he's a rock star himself. He's not, but he was a jazz
No.
musician that had his own band called the Dudley Moore Tree, I
Trio.
think.
Yeah.
Trio. Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway, he raspberries into the fly on the wall wish. He wishes he was a fly on the wall.
yeah. So we have a bit of an animation here.
Yeah.
Not the most pretty of animations, but effective.
No. And the voices
Uh,
are very, very shrill.
yeah. But this is now where we get to the scene that is kind of
Yeah.
really unpleasant.
Mm.
So they're in the morgue. The police officer possibly skipped over a piece where police officer shows up and they're looking for Dudley's
Yeah.
body because they found a suicide note
Yeah.
of Dudley's. He's not dead, obviously, so there is no corpse, but they're in a morgue and she's trying to identify the bodies. That's not the hard part. The hard part is the constable, or I'm not sure of his rank, I can't remember, who's in the morgue with her, starts going on about, I've had like 3 rapes today, and then he's like, I'm not even sure rape's a rape thing, and it's not all that bad. And he's then getting a bit groiny, if that's the phrase I can use.
Yeah.
He's kind of rubbing up against her on this, and it's incredibly unpleasant.
Yeah, I guess it's the late 60s for you. It just doesn't really, they don't really have that sensibility back then. Obviously Peter Cook's sort of type of on the edge humor for that type. Obviously they've got him and Dudley Moore have a lot of audio albums out there with a lot more explicit humor. So you
Mm,
could probably get where he's coming from here and what his actual real humor is like. But obviously for a movie in 2023,
yeah,
hearing, oh, I've already had 3 rapes this afternoon, it's quite jarring again.
yeah. Well, it's hard to get the comedy context from Peter Cook if it's just in a standalone movie. So it might be lost on a lot of people watching this, especially
Yeah.
nowadays. It's kind
Yeah.
of. I didn't like that scene, so
Nah.
we'll jump on to the next one. Oh yes, this is where this backfires horribly on poor Dudley. He just comes up
Mm.
with the. Oh, actually, that's not entirely fair on Dudley. Satan paints a scene. Says, "Okay, how about you're living in this ideal house. You've got 2 kids. She's at home waiting for you to turn up, and she loves you so much, and you love her, and it's lovely." Sets the scene. Dudley says, "Yes, give me that. That's a great wish. I wish for that." He gets that. So she's at home, 2 kids. He walks in the door. She jumps on and kisses him. But then Peter Cook walks in the door and says,
He's the
"Hello, darling,"
husband.
as the husband. Yes, and it's kind of awkward and kind of sad. It's probably the most realistic of them. It's you know he's such a lovely guy in it, and Dudley in this scene absolutely adores him as a friend, and the wife loves him because he's such a nice man. Uh, and it's their anniversary. So anyway, jigs and all reels of it. He lets the wife and Dudley go to some concert. I'm not sure what the event was.
No, it was a
Symposium.
Giotto. That's actually reminded me that I actually like Giotto, the artist, a
Oh,
Renaissance artist, or I can't remember what type of artist he is, but anyway, Giotto. It was a blast from the past. I hadn't heard him since
oh,
secondary school
I hadn't heard
art.
of him before watching this movie. So okay.
Yeah, you learn
Anyway,
something new every movie.
they're going to they're going to this exhibition. They drive off. They stop in the field instead of going to the exhibition. They have some nookie. But
But they're
as
crying
they're
constantly because they're
crying, yeah.
so guilty.
And I found, I don't know about you, but I found that kind of realistic, but then kind of horrible at the same time. Uh,
It's probably the most sort of emotionally
mm,
driven wish, I think, because it kind of had a bit of layering to it. I think all the other ones are quite surface level and a bit just bit kind of paint by numbers wishes, and this one was sort of, oh, there's
yeah.
a bit of emotion involved here, and of
Everything else
course,
was a comedy sketch up to this one, I think.
yeah, and I think maybe if the movie was along the lines of this sixth wish, I believe that, or fifth wish, I believe it might have been a more, maybe a more Groundhog Day approach to it, which is interesting because Harold Ramis directed the 2000 Bedazzled. So it was quite,
Mm.
which he couldn't sort of replicate the success of Groundhog Day from '93. But yeah, so I just kind of I felt like obviously it could have been a lot more sort of emotionally tied in like this one. Anyway, this one she runs back to the house, right, and just leaves him there, and he's crying, and
He's
that's
trying to blow
pretty.
a raspberry, but he's crying too much to blow
Yeah,
the raspberry, which is
uh,
again funny and equally sad. It was well
yeah.
played, and he's great in this one, and as is she actually. Um, Next one then being oh, I love this one.
The
So
nuns.
he thinks about it. He says, "I'm out. I'm done. You're not going to make me wish for anything more because this has all been horrible up to this point. Just yeah, I come up with a good idea and you destroy it for me." And Peter convinces him to go one more time. And he really thinks about it, and he thinks he's covered all the bases, so there can't be any weird shenanigans or subtext that he didn't think of. So he basically says, she's gonna love me, I'm gonna love her. There'll be no other men involved in the situation, which is a very important point. So yeah, it turns out he loses his junk and turns into a lady nun, which I suppose all nuns are. Um, as and she's a nun as well, and they meet each other in some silent order and fall in love straight away. And he keeps trying to blow his raspberry, but there's nobody answering the phone.
Yeah, that's interesting. Don't really know why that happens. He looks like the
No.
devil is sleeping when he gets out of it
Yeah, so
finally.
maybe he wasn't listening to the phone ringing. But
Yeah.
anyway, he's not enjoying himself. I did enjoy the trampoline scene, which
Trampoline scene was pretty good. The nun jumping, leaping nun song was very Monty Python
it
esque.
was. So I liked that, and I liked the shenanigans that the devil got him with in that one. I think that's my second favorite of the two. Much more humorous than the last one. There's no depth to it really. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, there was a sign. There was a sign on his bedroom wall. I can't remember it now, but I thought it was kind of humorous. I can't remember now what it said. Ah, damn it! I forgot to take note of it. Anyway,
That was
yeah, this is so he has to then basically run to his lair and wake him
yeah.
up after this one because it just kept on going on, and he got more and more depressed that he couldn't. Well, she couldn't be in love with him or have
Well,
him
she
because she's a
was in
nun.
love with him, but she was a nun and
Yeah,
she took her vows
yeah.
serious. And especially when it was a girl and girl sort of love thing, she was a bit freaked out.
Yeah, so he basically had to manually get out of this one instead of
Yeah,
automatically raspberrying.
no raspberries out of this one.
Yeah, which is interesting. So this kind of leads us to the last one. It kind of leads us on this sort of twist at the end.
Mm.
What
where
happens?
where he asks for his next wish,
Hmm.
and he's told, "Well, that was your last wish, buddy. Do you remember
What?
the ice cream?" And he's like,
What?
"What? No, no, I paid for that. Here's your 6 cents. You wished for it, by the way. You said I wished for an ice cream." And he's like, "Ah, crap." Hi, Matt. Oh, by the way, your last wish is what you stick as. So now you're in none. Goodbye, junk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then, like,
which
yeah, he basically is like going, "Well, really? Can you not do something?" And the devil goes, "All right, fair enough. Here's
I
your
forgot.
soul. Burn it."
They did. An important point that I've kind of skipped over was he was saving up 100 billion souls to beat
Mm, to
God
get
in some sort of weird gambling fetish. I don't know what the hell it was, but
to
um,
get back into heaven.
to back into heaven, yeah. And as a as a goodbye gift to his buddy, he says, "You know what? Yeah, screw it. Here's your soul. I kind of like you.
Yeah.
Off you go." And you know what? The whole way through it, even though he was screwing him over, there was a sense of kind of a buddy bond between the pair of them, which is very nice.
Yeah, it was okay. Peter Cook was a bit. Well, we can get on to acting now in a bit.
Mm.
Anyway, he heads up to heaven, and God goes, "Yeah, no thanks. That's wrong. You
Yeah, yeah.
you suck."
God screws him over by taking the good deed he did and throwing it back in his face and said,
Yes, yeah,
that's not what that wasn't what your job was supposed to be. You're supposed to be down on earth screwing people over. That you didn't screw him
yeah,
over there. So
yeah.
you're not coming up here. And then the last scene is Peter Cook basically shaking his fist up at the clouds and saying, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to make it 10 times worse."
So then Dudley Moore burns his contract. The devil can't get back in
Yeah.
time, and he goes back to his place flipping Wimpies, and the devil shows up and goes,
Oh, that's
"Would
right.
you like another go?"
Dudley's like, no, you're grand.
No, you're grand. Thanks. See ya. The end.
The end. Yeah.
For all it's worth, and for all it's sort of I gave it 1.5 out of 5. I wasn't enamored by it. I think they could have done a lot better. I think it was quite below average. There was a couple of okay moments. What about you?
I give it 2.5.
Oh, okay.
I liked. Well, I like Peter Cook. I think he's a terrible actor.
Yeah, he's terrible in this. Let's move on
He's
to acting
rubbish.
here. Yeah, I thought he was quite dull, quite monotonous. Yeah, probably, and
Yeah.
monotone as well. He actually
Yeah.
reminded me of how the Beatles acted in their movies.
Yeah. Help us.
I think Spence. I think Eleanor Bron was quite okay. I think she was. I thought she was going to be terrible when we saw her playing the waitress. She was kind of
Yeah.
dull, cockney
She
waitress, but
had
then
her
she did other
moments.
characters. I thought it was pretty
She
good.
was
Yeah,
shocking in some of them. I
yeah.
thought when she played the nun, she was very good, and I thought when she was the wife of Peter
Mm,
Cook, she was very good. Aside from that, she was kind of nondescript, but perhaps her character was a bit 2D as well. So she had moments. I
mm.
thought Dudley was very good.
I thought he was okay. I don't think he was. I don't think he was like Bill
He's
Murray
oh well, no, no.
in
I
Groundhog
thought he
Day.
started off very weak.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought it,
Uh,
like going straight into the hang-in scene very quickly into the movie was quite jarring as well.
yeah, it didn't give any context behind why he wasn't just hanging himself because he didn't score the chick.
Yeah.
There was a bit more to it, and it goes into it a bit later on. Because he can't make friends is one of his problems, but it doesn't go into that. It's just
No.
okay. This girl's not interested in me. I'm going to do myself in. Yeah, it's not really about that.
Eleanor Eleanor Braun is still alive, one of few people that in the movie that are still alive. And
Okay.
here's a little nugget: she is the voice of British Telecom error messages when you phone the wrong message.
Wow.
Not
Okay.
making that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
She
totally
does. Yeah.
forgot that Barry Humphries was in this, and when Envy came on screen, I was going, this is actually a good portrayal. It's quite layered, quite a cool portrayal of Envy." And then I looked it up and I thought, that's Barry Humphries, of course.
He was good. He didn't have enough, in my opinion.
No,
I
no.
love Barry Humphries. Um, but one thing I found interesting at the time when this was coming out, there was reasonable amount of controversy about the what was considered blasphemy at the time, and the studio weren't sure about it. So
Oh,
to allay any fears from the British Board of Film Censors, he went to the Archdeacon of Westminster and said, "Can you watch this movie and tell me if it's blasphemy or not?"
oh,
The Archdeacon watched it and went, "No, it's fine."
that's strange.
It is. It is. But at that time, it was a common law offence in the UK to blaspheme just to blaspheme. So
Wow,
the two lads could have ended up in prison for it, especially Stanley Donen could have.
interesting. That's interesting. Didn't know that. Your favorite character, Inspector Clark, played by Michael Bates, he also had a bit of a controversial role in It Ain't Half Hot Mum, that old comedy series. He actually played an Indian in it.
Yeah, rather unpleasant. Looking back now, I don't know at the
Yeah.
time, but it's if you think Apu and Simpsons was bad,
Mm.
which it really wasn't in my eyes. But it ain't half hot. It's kind of
And
not
he's not
great.
very good anyway at the
No,
accent either. He's just, but it's very,
very
so he
caricature.
has,
Very
yeah, he has interesting lines in this movie, and he's obviously got an interesting character in that comedy as well. I gave the acting 1 out of 5. What about you?
I was a bit more generous. I gave it 2.
Okay. The soundtrack, obviously, I thought the intro was very much like a horror movie before it turned into sort of like an Austin
Yeah,
Powers
that's
spy
very
type.
very Hammer House of Horror sort of tune.
Yeah, it was interesting. Then obviously his little jangles are done throughout the movie. I thought that the highlight obviously were the two songs. I liked the name of the band, Drimble Wedge and the Vegetation.
That's great.
And
Yeah,
actually, that song, that Bedazzled song, Nick Cave covered it.
get away.
Yeah, so I thought it was pretty. I thought it was interesting. But obviously, the song suited Peter Cook's delivery because it was very just monotone and
Yeah,
wooden.
yeah. But
Uh,
yeah, it worked.
yeah, I thought the Leaping Nun song was funny. It was very Monty Python esque, very
Mm.
surreal. Actually, I was thinking, oh, I could should clip this and make it some sort of weird nun jumping nun meme or something.
Who
Maybe
doesn't love
pretend
a
that it's
jumping
real or
nun meme?
something. Yeah, we need a. The world needs a jumping nun. So yeah, so it's on Spotify. If you look for the Bedazzled '67 soundtrack, all of the songs are on Spotify. So it's interesting to go through them all. And maybe without the context of the movie, strangely enough, it actually sounded a bit more actually appealing as well. It kind of distracts a lot from the actual movie, which it
Mm.
probably shouldn't. I gave the soundtrack 2 out of 5. What about you?
I give it 2.5.
Yeah. Okay, and production, just wrapping this up. I thought, talking about the cinematographer earlier on, Austin Dempster, I thought cinematography was quite good. There's lots of different angles, different sort of um, perspectives on things. I thought the
Yeah,
TV camera
like
work was good when they were doing the songs.
I think even though they didn't have a massive Hollywood budget, they weren't afraid to try different things out, and go like some of it obviously is it budget shows, but they still went for it, which is kind of good, and it doesn't necessarily fail. So I think they did considering their budget, I think they did a very good job.
Yeah, well, it has to be mentioned that Raquel Welch is on the front cover of the movie and on the poster as well. Obviously, she gets into a bikini or underwear or whatever, but she's a terrible actress. And
She's shocking. Listen,
yeah,
she's not in the movie more than seven. I think
no,
six something minutes. She
you
shouldn't be on the
counted.
cover,
Yeah,
but she's obviously was selling tickets in the cinema, which is a good move. But it actually brings me to a point I came across was Peter Cook was in the New Yorker, and he said that they didn't have a name for the movie when it was being produced, and so he just decided that it should be called Raquel Welch for the sole purpose of saying
may as
that Peter
well.
Cook and Dudley Moore uh, in Raquel Welch was the movie.
Well, if they were thinking about it, they would have went the same way as they did in 2000 and made her the devil, just like Elizabeth Hurley,
I
and
don't
that
think
could
it
have been
would
a
have
good.
been. No, it would have
Well, not with
sucked.
her acting though. No. Well, Elizabeth Hurley's not the best either in the 2000 remake either.
As much as I don't like Elizabeth Hurley, Raquel Welch was not great,
No.
to say the least.
Well, I think it's time for another. It's 20 years, 23 years since Bedazzled 2000. I think it's time
We
for
need
another
another
one.
remake, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I gave the production 2 out of 5. Like I wasn't gonna go too higher than that. What about you?
Again, I'm 0.5 more generous than you.
Yeah, you are a more generous person in general anyway. So top comment was from BBC. Jason Korsner gave it 100 out of 100. He said it's a biting, mischievous, and witty satire of the highest order. Bit superfluous there, Jason, but that's fine. New York Times gave it 50 out of 100. It's quite a long quote, and I really wasn't happy writing it down. Bosley Crowther, which is a great movie reviewer's name, he said maybe the brand of British buffoonery that Peter Cook and Dudley Moore bombard us with in Stephen Dunnan's Bedazzled would be very funny if it came in small bursts at not too frequent intervals in an expansive musical comedy or review, fired at you exclusively and endlessly for more than an hour and a half in this pretentiously metaphorical picture. It becomes awfully precious and monotonous.
Disagree
So
with him.
he said it more smarter than we could ever say it. So I
Lots of
think
big words, yeah.
yeah, lots of big words, fills up the word count for his article. Boom, sorted. I think that's it. I think we're done here for Bedazzled '67. I probably won't watch it again. It's a bit too wooden for me.
Yeah, no,
So
it has aged bad.
yeah, yeah. All right, I'm gonna do a random number here. It's the list has gone up to 15,550. So let's see what we get here. We have got hello, 465.
Get in.
Are
That's a
we
nice
happy with
number.
that? That is a
Oh
nice
yeah.
number. So let me just look this up. That should only be on page 4. Okay, 465. Here we go. Let's see if you can. Oh, the first movie that I've seen on the list. So it's from October 17th, 2014.
Oh.
Let me see if you know it. It's directed by Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu, and it
Mm.
stars Michael Keaton in the leading role.
The
You know what it
Birdman.
is? It is The Birdman, or
I
The
haven't seen it
Unexpected.
actually,
Oh, great.
because my wife didn't want to watch it, so I
Yeah,
get to watch it. Hey,
great. So, yeah, the it's an actor.
I've heard great things about this actually.
Yeah, I remember watching it back in the day, so I'll be happy to watch it again. An actor famous for portraying an iconic superhero struggles to mount a Broadway play. In the days leading up to opening night, he battles his ego and attempts to recover his family, his career, and himself. So, something to look forward to.
I always like a bit of Keaton.
Oh yeah, definitely. That'll be really good to actually get our teeth into something that's rated as 87 on Metascore and
Oof.
8.2 by user score. So hopefully we can go above and beyond 30 minutes with that, because this episode we've gone over that, and for such a mundane movie. So
2 hours.
2 hours. Bumper episode, double spread over 2 episodes.
And we'll be bringing you Michael Keaton.
Yeah, straight from his ranch in Nevada. All right, so that was episode 8 of 15K plus random movie reviews. Please, if you've made it to the end and you like us, please share it with everybody you know, and I don't know, post it up on your Snapchat if that's what you have,
Or Bebo.
um,
Don't forget Bebo.
and your MySpace profile. Okay, I will see you again in episode 9 of 15K plus movie reviews. Bye bye.
Ta-ra.